Not even close. Cool. Let's fix the Facebook one. Who are we streaming to right now? We got YouTube working. Interviewing Women Project Exec Director today. Jocelyn Foy. Go live. Ding, ding, ding. Are we good with Twitch? Is Twitch up yet? YouTube's up. Twitch is up. Fantastic. Stream Elements wants you to sign back in. And for the end of the podcast, this is the Discord. You can call in and make your comments. Or fight me. Or say how much you like the Women Project. Or whatever you want. Yeah. Here we go. Here we go. I could talk about most or argue about most topics. There are certain topics that our organization doesn't take a position on, in which case I will bring you in to my personal thing later if you want. Isn't that fun? We are up and running. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, atheists, agnostics, humanists, secularists, our political allies, and maybe even some of our political adversaries if you're watching. Hello there. Today is the third Rhode Island Atheist podcast episode. Rhode Island Atheists recently attended the opening day of the Rhode Island legislative session, representing non-believers, making sure that legislators know we're out here, and we don't believe in any God, except for maybe the flying spaghetti monster. He's out there somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. You know he is. We testify on multiple bills. We testify on multiple bills every year. And this year, we're going to be focusing on a new bill that defends voting rights. We're going to be codifying the 1965 Voting Rights Act into Rhode Island state law, so that for whatever strange, unknown reason, some goofy person, some mischievous rascal in the federal government decides to get rid of that or just not follow it, that our state law will protect those rights regardless. Kind of like how people wanted to codify Roe v. Wade, which we did in Rhode Island. We'll get to that in a minute. The 1965 Voting Rights Act was to make sure there was no barriers to citizens voting, such as literacy tests or poll taxes or the intimidation tactics that were used in the civil rights era to get minorities to not vote. We don't want that happening again. So we're going to codify that into state law. That's the bill that we are supporting as an organization. In the summer, once it gets warmer, once the cursed cold leaves us in our low coastal state, on May 6th at 3 p.m. at the State House, the Rhode Island Atheists will be celebrating the Rhode Island Day of Reason once again, supporting critical thinking, logic, science, and the separation of church and state, of course, which all kind of go hand in hand together, as it turns out. Isn't it funny how that works? The Rhode Island Atheist General Meeting is on Tuesday, February 10th at 6:30 p.m. But I believe at the Warwick Library, but I will have to double check from Joe. Joe, are you here? Oh, wait. I was supposed to say contact us for the location details. You can look at our Facebook page as well. We have a couple locations we go to. We don't always, announce to the world where we're going to be, because we don't necessarily want these meetings to be, where our adversaries go to troll us, but I think it'll be fine. So, in March, instead of our general meeting, we are hosting local author Bill Cole to discuss the intersection between faith and guns, the religious people, and the worshiping, you could say, of firearms. His latest book is In Guns We Trust, The Unholy Trinity of White Evangelicals, Politics, and Firearms. Guns are tools, not deities, people. Not items of worship. Keep that in mind. Now, our main topic today, as we are going to be interviewing renowned executive director Jocelyn Foy of the Women Project. Our main topic is abortion rights in Rhode Island. As you know, Rhode Island Atheists has always supported reproductive freedom as religious freedom. Bodily autonomy is one of the first fights that our organization actually got involved with, allied with the Women Project, of course, which is why we're interviewing them. It's very nice. Now, we're partners to the Women Project. The Women Project combines art and activism to defend abortion rights. And we're also members of the Rhode Island Coalition for Reproductive Freedom, which includes large groups such as the Women's Fund and Planned Parenthood. Now, you all have heard of Planned Parenthood before. Abortion rights in Rhode Island were codified into state law in, intensified moral. Oh, that's a spam bot. Nice. Based spam. Anyway, abortion rights in Rhode Island codified in the 2019 Reproductive Privacy Act. It was passed and it codified Roe v. Wade into state law. We're actually going to be talking, I believe, to Jocelyn Foy about the work that the Women Project did to push that in, because they were very involved in that process. They may have even drafted the bill. We'll get all those details from Jocelyn later. Now, as Rhode Island Atheists, we work to pass other bills, such as the 2023 Equality in Abortion Coverage Act. We expanded healthcare coverage on abortion to make sure that it wasn't just the rich people who get to access this care. Very important. 2024 Healthcare Provider Shield Act passed, which protected providers from prosecution and persecution from entities outside the state who want to play cute games where it's illegal in their state, but it's legal in ours, but they try to harass providers and legally attack them. Lawfare, you might say, to push the agenda that they care about that has nothing to do with our state. We protect them with the mighty shield. It's fantastic. Now, the expanding healthcare coverage to multiple classes of people is also very important, because I don't remember the stats off the top of my head for this, I'm pretty sure that unplanned pregnancies are really much more common in lower income groups too. So, and then when you have a kid, you're even more financially fucked. It's very important that people who need access to abortion get access to abortion. Otherwise, you kind of ruin a lot of parents and children's lives that way. You bring children into the world that you can't financially support. It's not a good time. Of course, conservatives care very much about the lives of people right up until they're born, and then you can go fuck yourself, I guess, in their eyes. Very cool pro-life groups. Very pro-life and very cool they are. Now, speaking of pro-life groups, these political adversaries of ours are very active, very driven. Driven all over the place they are. They show up all over the state, actually. No, the Diocese of Providence and the Rhode Island Right to Life Office in Providence and many, many, many religious groups, church groups that are all pro-life, they work very hard to make the lives of women who need to get abortions hell, and to make the lives of residents of the state who think people should have the right to choice hell as well. They do prayer vigils outside of Planned Parenthood. They harass patients and staff, say very, very mean things to them. Very not nice. They also, even worse, much more manipulatively, they make fake clinics called crisis pregnancy centers, which honestly I think should be illegal under false advertising. It's the manipulative practice where they lead women to believe they can get the health care they need there, or abortion care if they're seeking abortions. And instead a bunch of people with no medical licenses, like basically pull them along, yank their chain around, and then show them gory abortion videos to gross them out or make them feel bad to dissuade them from getting abortions and try to convince them to have them. It's vile. It's fucked up. It is kind of fucking evil. But this is something that they are apparently allowed to do. These centers are not regulated. A lot of the people there lack licensed medical practitioners. They are bastards, I guess is the way you could put that. So that is something that they do. Uh, I can't imagine being someone who's trying to get an abortion going and then finding out I signed up and just sitting wasting my time at one of these places and getting shamed and guilted. I'd be very fucking annoyed. That's just me personally. But I don't understand why that's not illegal or false advertising or something like that. But when they're on a mission, they're on a mission. That's the way the pro life people operate. But very soon now, as soon as I confirm she is available, we will be hearing from the amazing executive director of the Women Project. Hello, I am ready for you whenever you are. Whenever you are, just click on the waiting room. VC. Unfortunately, our friend Jocelyn was a little bit confused about the time, so she is going to call in, but she might be driving, so we might not get a video of her per se. She might be just calling in on her phone. She's an amazing executive director from the Women's Project. She is Jocelyn Foy. She spent the last decade heading in the Women's Project as an organization that combines art and activism to defend women's rights, securing critical legislative victories in the Rhode Island State Legislature. She was recently awarded the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters by Rick. I'll be asking her about that later because I don't necessarily know what that is. I did go to Rick, right? We have that. Well, yeah, I graduated from Rick in 2017, so that's cool. And while we wait for that, I want to say thank you to our new sponsor, Bloom Patisserie. I hope I'm not butchering the. Oh, she's in the waiting room. I hope I'm not butchering the pronunciation of that. Bloom specializes in meticulously crafted croissants and European pastries and delicate and delicious coffee and espresso. Every detail is designed around care, quality, and a slower, thoughtful cafe experience. Opening soon in Conamicut Village, a town I also hope I did not mispronounce. Follow them on Instagram at Patisserie Bloom, and I'll put that in the chat because just because you heard me say it doesn't mean you know how to spell it. It'd be nice if I could just spam that to all chats at once without going to each one individually. All right, and now let me bring. I hit enter, bro. Thank you for sending my chat, sir. Let me go to Jocelyn. Move her to the live chat. Hello, Jocelyn. I see that you are muted. If you could hit the unmute button, I understand that you are driving at the moment, so you might not be able to show your video, but we're ready for you whenever you are. If you are not held up. There you go. Hello, can you hear me? I think I need to change my settings actually. Let me just make sure that my speakers are set to the correct thing. You say something again? Oh, hello, I hear you now. Yeah, I hear you. How are you doing today? No problem. Sorry about the confusion. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're a mother as well. I hope your children are doing fine. Yeah, how much has being a mother played into your advocacy and your activism? My friend from Connecticut actually says that she felt like Rhode Island was its own little world. Yeah. Wh- When we have sports competitions, we're always going to other states. Yeah.
How how do I collaborate and figure out how to use all of this, all the power for good, shall we say?
Awesome. I feel really awkward because the audio was not capturing you until the end of that, but
That's
hopefully
cool.
we caught some important parts.
I'm
Th-
happy to repeat if you want.
yeah, just if you could summarize for us. Thanks for letting me know, Shy Guy Rye.
Thanks.
I
So
should have caught that.
my response is that I'm mom of 1 and 4 year olds when we moved across country, and when we got here to Rhode Island, we just didn't really understand the politics or basically the conservatism.
Yeah.
And so I used what I had as a superpower, which was being a design professor, to, as I jokingly but seriously say, put it to good. And that was how my activism started.
Awesome. Now, was Trump winning? So, did Trump winning the election in 2016? Obviously, I assume that sparked a motivating factor for founding the Women Project the year after.
Yeah, I mean, part of the deal was is that we when where I moved to by way of making a spreadsheet, so it triangulated all my family members in New England and New York City. I ended up moving to South Kingstown, which was at the time extremely it's liberal, but it's very wealthy. And the community where we were, I was a member of Hera Art Gallery, fifth oldest women started art space in the US and still open. And I went to them and I was like, can we use this as a space to do lectures of what subject matter experts expect will impact our state? So we went to an immigration rights lawyer like 2 days after, had this like live recording. That lawyer was awesome in terms of casting some light on what the landscape was going to be. So from there, we really we I learned a lot of things, and some of us came together and said, we can pinpoint one of these topics. Let's try and see what kind of impact we can make with art and politics. And so the art part kind of built in the ability to have smaller conversations, more people feeling like they could have involvement. But it started, I wouldn't say necessarily from Trump, but it started with like this crazy energy around where we lived to want to do something. And it was like, oh, this energy spurred us to feel impactful too. And so the lecture series kind of led to, hey, people who want to do something, either give money or start getting involved with these groups. And then we found that people were turning to us and saying, okay, well, what about you all? What if we followed you? And so that was really how he kind of, I don't want to ever give 45, now 47 credit,
Right.
but he definitely, it was really the energy of the people around us that really opened our eyes to go, there's a movement opportunity here.
Is South Kingstown, do you still see it as a liberal area? Has it still remained that?
No, I do not.
It's
I
kind of slid
see it
back.
though. Yes, like every town and city in Rhode Island. So there's 39 towns and cities. And in the last election, 2024, 15 of them flipped from quote unquote Democratic to Republican, in some cases, MAGA Republican led. And we found that that is going like wildfire across our state
Yeah.
with some really well funded activism by the far right. And Rhode Island, South Kingstown is no different. And it's also become a town that, because it's closer to the water, there's less people living in the town and there's more second home situations there. And so
Gotcha.
you have a smaller population with a lot of, I feel like, nomadic lifestyles.
Right.
I don't know.
So, what do you think they're doing organization wise that we're not doing right?
Oh, that's a loaded question, and I actually don't wanna say it in case they're listening,
Of
but,
course, don't want to give them too many ideas, right?
like, but, how about this? How about I'll say it in a positive, we see what they're doing, we're mimicking it ourselves. We as an organization are not able to put out publicly a ton of the work we do because so much of it requires that strategy. But I will say the scare tactics of the far right, is I think new to a lot of people in Rhode Island. I heard in 2025, even last year, people were shocked that it was here. They were like, "What? Really? Rhode Island?" And we're like, "Oh no, really Rhode Island." And that was before essentially ICE coming in and really shaking things up in a bigger way. But um I mean, let's just say in 2018, only one district in Rhode Island had voted for the Republican candidate for president at the time. And
Yeah,
last year, 42% of Rhode Islanders voted for the Republican candidate.
Jesus.
And so when you look at the numbers and you look at how quickly it's growing, I mean, here's another interesting fact though that I've learned as I go down the rabbit hole of looking at government transparency and data records of voting, as well as like who's voting and where and why. But only 38% of Rhode Islanders know who their state senator and state representative is, meaning
Not
they
good.
may know who the folks are in Washington, D.C., but they don't know who the folks are who sit in Providence at the state house for them.
And
And
that's
I
a
think,
national thing that happens too, where like people on the other like random parts of the country all know who AOC is, but they don't know their own yeah, their own people.
right. So I think like what's interesting is I heard recently from someone who does a lot of this work, and their comment to me was, like, if so few people know that information, then the people that are sitting in Rhode Island State House don't really, I mean, they don't really matter. People could run against them, and it's going to be about what the values are that those people uphold, not what their voting record has been. And so
Exactly.
I think I'm fascinated by that, and I'm also, we are not an organization that runs candidates. We are an organization that puts out data, we put out information to help people decide how they want to vote,
Yeah.
and uplifting some of the people who are doing right by bodily freedom, definitions essentially. But it's something.
Yeah, and if people want, they're I don't know if it's called Vote Smart. It's stuff like that. There are websites where you can see people's voting records if you really want to learn who people are. That's when I was in like 2018 trying to figure out how to vote for like local people. That's how I tried to like figure out who people were. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, we designed a tool called the Bodily Freedom Forever Index tool.
yeah,
And so we went to people who were running in 2024 and we asked them where they stand. And a lot of them didn't want to answer, but many did.
yeah.
And then we could fill it out based on that. But now we're building the more robust report that essentially says where now anyone who is sitting in um, town councils, school committees, mayors, or managers of towns, where are their voting records aligning them in those issues? Then we go to the people and say, is this right? Are you for or are you against these issues? And while we do it through the lens of reproductive rights and LGBTQIA protections, it's fascinating, and it's not, I mean, it's an assumption, but it's not surprising that the same people's voting records also overlap with things like universal free lunches and affordable housing. And so we can also spread that data across and show that. And I wish that we were not just a team of two and a half
Yeah,
that
it would
are
be
doing
nice.
this work, because we'd really be able to pump it out and people would have it in front of them right now and be like, holy crap. But we've got a lot started and we'll have it out really soon so that it becomes something that, come the time that candidates in Rhode Island have to announce, we hope to have new people, because neighborhoods are fired up about how their reps and senators are not doing the right thing.
Right. Speaking of legislation, I know that your organization was very much involved in the 2019 Reproductive Privacy Act. What kind of work did you do to get that passed, and what was your relationship with Representative Anastasia Williams when that was going on?
Yeah, so the question is like how did we relate to Anastasia Williams?
Well, I mean, I think she was the representative who put the act forward, if I'm not mistaken, and also I think that it was like a big achievement for your organization of protecting reproductive privacy. So like what
It
kind of
was
work did what did it take to help get that through?
Sure. So, when we started in 2017, really getting going to mid 2019, the bill was called the Reproductive Health Care Act,
Yeah.
the RHCA, and that was supported by Edie Agello on the House side and Gail Golden on the Senate side.
Oh, okay.
And there was weird fights, there was real weird deals that are actually playing out right now in the Rhode Island Senate, that all the deal making is starting to come to fruition, and we're starting to see it more, and we can talk about that if you want later. But the deals that were made were, we're going to kill the RHCA and we're going to reintroduce a new bill called the Reproductive Privacy Act.
Oh,
And the Reproductive Privacy Act then had to be carried by two new bill sponsors, which it was. And it modified language in the bill just slightly to get it past the finish line. But those things that were lost in the bill were things like generational support of young people who needed the right to abortion.
oh.
You had to have your biological parents approve it. I'm sorry,
You had to have
I have a
that,
background noise.
that's okay. No
Apologies.
problem. You
Okay.
had to have your parents approve it.
You had to have your biological parents. And let's think about generations living with each other predominantly in Black and Brown communities. So you have, let's see, yes, so you have basically the concept of um, a parent, like if a young person is living with their aunt or uncle, or if they're living with their grandparents because their parent works someplace out of state and they can't get there, that bill, the RHCA, had it possible that a young person could get the not only protection but the approval of that right. And then when the RPA came through, it made it so that that was removed. And then bill sponsors, more conservative bill sponsors, said, yes, okay, we'll approve and we'll sign on and we'll help pass this bill. So Anastasia Williams was the bill sponsor for the Reproductive Privacy Act, as was Erin Lynch Prada, who is now a court justice in Rhode Island. Anastasia Williams has such incredibly kind and remarkable things to say about that experience of having been a representative. And she did the best she could by the position she was put in by leadership.
Right.
And she really was strong armed in that she saw the need that as much coverage and support that could get passed, she wanted to make sure it did. And
Exactly.
she didn't, and so I feel for her. We've had many, many conversations since and during, and we still stay in touch. And anyway, so
So if even if a biological parent doesn't have custody of the kid, they get the final say on it.
yes.
That's
Yep.
crazy.
So in Rhode Island and in different parts of the country, it's called, we have something where if a young person does not want to get the parent's signature or can't get the parent's biological parent's signature for so many reasons, let's even think in terms of like foster youth,
Yeah.
then there is a guardianship clause, and the ACLU works with a team of lawyers that will take the young person and put them in front of the go ahead in front of the court, which is basically asking the court to approve the process. Which, when we talk about how detrimental that can be to someone to have to relive perhaps a reason that a young person under the age of 18 is pregnant,
Right.
um it's a huge problem. It's incredibly awful. And it's proven to lead to some pretty horrific situations as well for those people.
Well, sorry to hear. Yeah. Yeah. That seems very. I don't even know. I guess other than blocking care for some people, I don't even know what the people pushing on the other side got out of making it that way. That's crazy. Um,
Well, when you think about it as we are the most Catholic state in the United States, you have such power in the Catholic Church and deal making that is it's something that's within your more subject matter expertise, but we have such a huge basically the bond of church and state. We don't have a separation of those entities as much. There's so many people that are taking bribes and are doing deals with the church to get further leadership and conservative judges or conservative senators or conservative school committee members or town councilors so that the will of the church is carried into those policies. And that's a particular example of an incredibly difficult situation that shouldn't happen.
yeah,
But if it does, there should be a place where young people are protected because abortion is basic life-saving healthcare, right? So
exactly. Well, I saw that your organization, you created the Women Project Education Fund. What kind of effort did it take to set that up, and how is that going?
sure, thanks for asking.
No problem.
So when we started as a 501c4 nonprofit. And what that means in government here in Rhode Island or anywhere in the country, excuse me, is that you have the right to lobby, you have the right to do things as it pertains to bills, like naming the name of the bill, naming the number of a bill, naming the bill sponsors and general assembly members that you should be focusing on around a bill. That allows you it affords you some things, but what it doesn't afford you and makes a 501c4 status nonprofit so hard for a lot of organizations to set up is that it's very hard to fund. Like people don't want to give to it because lobbying is a stigmatized thing, a word, a concept. People don't really understand what it is so well.
Yeah,
But B, it also is not something that when people can do tax write-offs, they can get the actual write-offs from a government. Like so we set up the 501c3 status nonprofit, which is the Woman Project Education Fund, so that not only are we following the law where you can only do of total things that you can only do 20% lobbying.
right.
We do as little as possible in that realm because we have the C4 that can do it. So
Yeah,
it wasn't hard to do. We did it during COVID, interestingly enough. And it's the entity of us that educates on the concept of abortion rights and protections. It's not talking about a bill or a law. It's the side of us that works around getting more people to become poll workers or how to feel empowered to advocate and doing lessons on what does advocacy look like in this moment in time. So it's the place where we actually get to play.
yeah,
And so I understand that one of the questions you wanted to ask about was our new art lab, ART,
yeah.
which stands for Artivism, Research and Tactics and Community. And it's something that is a gift from a donor, which is incredible and that we have it. And so it was something that we wanted to use through the lens of this art and education side of us, this C3 status side, that we can host like different groups using it for different activities. So we've had 9 nonprofits use it for other things for free because they need space and space is limited. We've used it as a space where we have an art gallery where we're inviting artists to come through that show different types of artivist processes that folks in Rhode Island could then glean and like turn into their own process if they wanted.
Right.
We use it as a place where all of us we have offices, just basic offices, but they're big tables and we all sit around the tables and work together. And it's right by Farm Fresh in Rhode Island, which is a space that has the steel yard and it has a large studio um, community, a lot of artists in that area. So it's apropos to be in that community. And as it gets warmer, as we all start to thaw, it will become a place that's I think much more understood by people as how it can be used. Like we can do projections outside of the building and do meetups outside, and there's this outside back courtyard that's really cool. So
Awesome.
really interesting.
What's been your favorite public art project that your organization has done in the past few years?
Oh, thanks for asking. That's
No
my
problem.
that's my happy place.
That's your happy place? Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so um, it's interesting. I think that I liked it because the work that we do as art actions and artivist actions comes from how can we create a spectacle and how can we bring people a little joy and hope.
Right.
Also uplifting topics to keep them in the news so that people can't look away or they are good photographs and so people want to use them.
Exactly.
And it was back in 2022, so it wasn't as recent, but it kind of is the epitome of what represents us as an organization with two halves to the whole, which I like to call the C3C4.
Yeah.
Is like there's two team members and they're really working in the same direction in coalition. But so when Roe v. Wade was overturned, we in 18 hours turned around and had a rally of like 650 folks show up, and we organized. It was in May of 2022, and we essentially organized so that we would all meet at the state house, but we didn't know why. By the way, my camera is trying to connect and it can't. So I'm just giving you a heads up that if you wanted to try and do that,
Oh,
I
shoot.
could now, but I
Wait.
don't know.
Oh, I see it. Hold on. Let me bring you up here.
Sorry, I've been on voice, everybody, but thank you for supporting parents who are activists and parents at the same time.
No problem. And eh, all right. Everyone can see your lovely face. Amazing.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So we were really excited about the fact that we had a hot air balloonist who was a buddy,
Yeah.
and he had come to us a while ago and had said, if you ever want to do a project, let's do something and you should project on the hot air balloon. And we were like, oh, that's rad. And so
Wait,
when
did
Roe
projecting on
got
the hot air
named,
balloon work?
yeah, it did.
Nice.
So we were Roe was overturned. I mean, like the leak came out that Roe was going to be overturned. We called the hot air balloon folks and we were like, "Hey, could we do something with a hot air balloon in this moment? Like, we don't know what. You tell us what you want to do." And they were like, "Yeah, and let's project on it. It's a black hot air balloon. We'll put it up on the campus of the state house, like on the side yard, backyard, facing the mall, and project some stuff on it, like facts and like calls to actions." And we were like, yes, absolutely. And I have to be honest, I was like, okay, so how do I not get arrested from Capitol Police? This is the first
Right.
thing I thought. So the artists in us, like the artist team, was like, all right, what are we projecting? How do we coordinate that? They took that. The policy and the lobbying side of us were like, okay, how do we create a rally around what this moment means and what do we need to do? And at the time, and to basically build the protections into state insurance policies that include abortion. So at the time, we were fighting what was called the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act,
Yeah.
which the Atheists were a coalition partner of ours, which was awesome. We did a campaign together, and we were like, okay, we're putting pressure on the governor, McKee at the time, to pass, like to get ready to pass the bill. We need to put all the pressure we could on it. So we did a rally at the state house at the same time the hot air balloon was going, 18 hours after Roe was leaked. And ultimately, I asked all the executive officers to come and speak at the rally. And I knew that if I had those folks to speak, then I wouldn't get arrested.
That's good.
So so it was like
So
the
that sort of
perfect like
strength in numbers
synergy.
thing?
Yeah, it was like strength in numbers, and you had the executive officers that if the cops got pissed at us, we could just say, well, they knew about it because they
Yeah.
were there with us at the rally. So the hot air balloon's going up right when the rally is starting. You have this giant flame. I did hear from a couple folks that they were like, that was a little shocking and we couldn't handle it. It was bad. But most people were like, holy moly, you like gave us hope and you showed us something new. And it brought a little bit of like chutzpah to the moment that was really needed. And so I hold on to that as like a moment in time that was so fraught, much like the moment I feel like we're in again
Yep.
for
Even
different
more so.
reasons.
Yeah.
But yep, exactly.
Yep.
And so yeah, much more so. So it's sort of like, okay, what's next? And so that's the way our brains are sort of trying to maneuver all of the answers to kind of find that next thing. And it's not to say that we don't have it, but it's also to say there's so many awesome groups out there doing the work that it's all of us figuring out how do we do it that we don't waste all of our energy in the process.
Right.
We're all spreading out the love.
Yeah. Now, since the passing of the Reproductive Privacy Act all those years ago, what do you think has been like your organization's greatest achievement?
After that,
Yeah, because that
so
was
I
a
would
really
say
big
it would
one.
be,
But I'm saying like what?
yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah,
So after that, we were a part of, in 2022, we were a part of the steering committee that were involved in the Voting Rights Coalition work.
yeah,
And so we helped make same-day voter registration possible, which, a little known story about the Woman Project. Again, I go back to, we're not involved in getting people elected, but some of the individuals that are a part of Woman Project had helped different campaigns on our own time.
right.
And to have gotten the Reproductive Privacy Act passed, we knew we had to have had certain people in the Senate and the House of Rhode Island. And we got that to happen. So we knew the power of working to get people elected so that we could see our values represented. When we then organized further, we got involved in the Voting Rights Coalition and actually that suite of bills, because in 2022, we wanted to make sure that if you didn't know where you could vote and you find out, you could still on the same day be able to get that vote in. And so we were like, okay, how do we keep opening up the opportunity for people to vote their values? And so 2022, that bill passed really quickly. That was not something that we led, but that was something that our one of our team members was one of 5 who maneuvered in a lot of instances to make sure that could happen. I think past the Reproductive Privacy Act, the biggest achievement was the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act, which again is the bill I spoke of around insurance coverage for state workers and Medicaid recipients. That was a bill that as soon as Roe fell, I mean, as soon as the Reproductive Privacy Act passed, we immediately helped. We found bill sponsors. We built a mock bill. We went to the bill sponsors and said, could you help fine tune this, make this yours? And they submitted it. And it was submitted it was submitted in 2020, right before COVID hit the country.
Yeah,
And we went on a trip to Washington, D.C. to meet with Senator Reed's and Senator Whitehouse to put pressure on them, not only to be sponsors of the federal Roe bill called the Women's Health Protection Act, WIPA, they call it. And Senator Whitehouse was signed on. Senator Reed was holding out. And so at that moment, he told us he would. So at the time where we had 60 folks down in Washington, D.C., we had a press event here in Rhode Island where the bill sponsors launched it. And we built a coalition of people, and it wasn't repro people, it was equity based organizations. People were like, look, if the wealthy people can have it, why can't the poor people too?
right.
And the people who work for all of us. And so that was a different campaign because it's a different message. Everybody got anxious that the word abortion was in the bill name, but we wanted it not for spectacle, but for clarity. Like,
Yeah,
this is what
exactly.
we're fighting for, and let's not shy away from something that's so stigmatized. So,
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the end, we passed that bill in this massive coalition. It took a couple years because of COVID, but the bill was signed into law in 2023, which was a huge deal. And it took a lot of different types of people, but it was seen as like a no-brainer because if it hadn't had the word abortion even in the title, it probably would have passed sooner. But the bill sponsors, Bridget Valverde in North Kingstown and Liana Kassar, who no longer is with us as a rep, she's in Barrington. She's still alive. I made that sound like she died, but
Yeah,
she's
at
no
first I was
longer.
trying to
She's
clear
no
that up in
longer.
my mind.
Sorry. She's no longer with us. No, she's with us. She's with us. She's not as a state representative.
Yeah,
And so those two worked really hard to basically say, okay, this is not we did not finish the job when we started the Reproductive Privacy Act. And frankly, we haven't finished the job since the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act. So the next fight is going to be to make sure we get young people's access to abortion protected. And
yeah.
that's a bigger fight to have, but that's an essential fight to have.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for informing us on all of that. Now, I saw that Rhode Island,
All of it.
yeah, that Rhode Island College awarded you the honorary doctorate of humane letters. What is that? And can
Yeah.
you talk about how that came to be and what that was?
That's such an honor. I was so surprised. What is a Doctor of Humane Letters to start? That is a honorary doctorate degree that is given to people in community, or it's not just community, it's usually given to people who have been major inventors or incredible lab creators of incredible, like, I don't know, penicillin,
Yeah, things
say.
like that.
No,
Yes.
but and really, really like incredible change. And so the concept of an honorary degree, doctorate degree, means that the work that you're doing is as significant or aligned significantly as that work that someone would do to get a doctorate. And it is something that you are nominated for. It is something I did not know that I had been nominated for.
Wow.
I understand that in different colleges and universities across the country, they create committees, and the committees come together with different names, and the names get sent around to a range of different other committees, and at the very end, the president of or the president of the college or university is the final decider. Like, are they willing to have that person be up on stage with them for the degree ceremony? And excuse me. So I was honored to be recognized for the work the Woman Project has done for reproductive rights and LGBTQIA protections in Rhode Island. That I will never, I am, again, I say that I'm a white cis woman because I think it's so important to name that I see myself as someone who's working in collaboration, but trying not to take up space. And I think we've done we as an organization have been, I'm proud of us, we've done a good job of getting into a lot of different towns and cities, making relationships with those towns and cities, and really standing up to the far right hate and standing up to the centers of basic equal rights and civil rights. And that takes huge teams of people. And um, so why do I think I got it? I think I got it because I've been persistent and I've put my neck out. I started this organization, five of us started it together. And there's been so many different incredible iterations of our organization leadership, and I'm the last remaining of the five co-creators. And this isn't, I don't want the Woman Project to be seen as Jocelyn's, or I don't want it to be seen as just an inside group who knows about it. Anyone who works with us should be calling themselves a Woman Project. And to that
Awesome.
end, I want to say, like, the name is a weird one. Like, it's not, it doesn't match us the same way as it did when we started. The X in the name was supposed to always identify inclusion of anyone seeing themselves in the work with us,
Yeah.
not just women. But over the years, since 2017 even, that's changed so much that the X, to a lot of trans women, I've heard from feedback that it's unfortunately felt as too exclusive, and
Okay.
that it's not just with by having the word woman with an A, that would identify them as who they want to be, or who they see themselves as, or who they are. So it's hard because to change your name and your brand is a big shift, and
Yeah.
it's very expensive, and
And it's
it's
hard
something
to
that our
maintain. Yeah. Makes sense.
the but the board of directors has voted as we are going to start a public process of going through a name change in the future.
Oh, how soon is that
We
happening?
Well, there has to be a little bit of a quiet or a calm in the seas, and
Yeah.
to start that process for it to push through. And I will be honest,
That I don't see that coming anytime
that's
soon.
it's
Yeah.
we see it as at least at minimum until the end of session, which is in June. And then we would begin a process of what's happening on the national level. That is it helpful or is it not helpful? So
Right.
there is an interest there. And I will say, ever since 2018, or yeah, 18, when the name changed, the board of directors votes on it every year. Is like, can we keep going with this? Is this make sense? And but it's hard because we want people to see themselves in the name and in the work, and we can't exist without it being people powered and large people power. So in that sense, we don't ever want that to hold people back from seeing themselves in the importance of this work as a community.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
that was all very lovely. Thank you for all your
Thank
time
you.
today. I don't actually have any more
Oh, thank you.
questions unless you had something else you wanted to touch on before you went off to your things that you're doing today.
Went off to my went off to my activities too.
Yeah.
I would say that the the efforts that we have right now that I would love your folks to know, and regardless if it's one person or if it's 50 people or 100 people, we are in the midst in Rhode Island of a very interesting moment that played out in Washington, D.C. a couple years ago. And that is that in the last half a year, our state saw 4 openings of judges that
Uh-oh.
people stepped down from the bench. Um, and this really plays into what I believe is an atheist mission, which is the extreme importance of the separation of church and state.
Right.
And we have, for a long time, followed sort of the lack of transparency that existed in government, starting when we were working on the Reproductive Privacy Act, that the rules would change every week. If we would go to the state house, they would say, oh, a new rule is that you can't stand in the hallways because the hallways need to be accessible and they're too filled.
Oh god.
Or a new rule is that you can't enter the building you can no longer bring noise machines, like you can't bring instruments. New, like, just continually changing of rules that you're just like, why and how does this serve everyone? Is this a concept of democracy?
Right.
And so we followed the rules basically, and then we got deeper into other things like the Open Meetings Act and the violations that were happening at school committees and town councils. And we saw this huge issue and started bringing in attorney general representatives to question the validity and identify a change that we can make through reform. But now where we are, and we had seen it coming, and it's just sort of on the precipice now, is that a couple of the senators from the Reproductive Privacy Act days are about to receive very high-powered rule setting jobs by lifetime appointments of judges in our state. And
Uh-oh.
these gentlemen went from the Senate to judge, basically funnel of leadership very quickly, which at one point in 1994, there was a law that made it so that you couldn't do this so quickly. It was designed to stop that process because it was happening too much, and the level of deal making and sort of lack of transparency in this process was really bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, so where we are now is I'd ask your folks that if people had the wherewithal or the energy, and maybe they've done it, but I would encourage you to keep doing it, is that we need folks to call the Senate president, whose name is Valerie Lawson, and ask her to not confirm Michael McCaffrey to the district court position. We also are asking people to put calls into the governor McKee and tell him that his decision to do it for McCaffrey was one, but he has another one coming up named Stephen Archambault, who was an incredibly bad actor when it came to doing illegal things like writing a new fake law for the Reproductive Privacy Act the day it was trying to get out of committee. And everyone said it didn't count, but he wanted it in as witness testimony at minimum. Like strange stuff. Anyway, you've had people
Wait, can you
for
explain that again? What was his name?
sure.
Stephen Ackenbow?
Stephen Archambault,
Archambault.
Archambault. And all of this, by the way, you can find on our website. We have a link that goes to a direct action feed. And so it has these really simple call outs of like, hey, if you have 5 minutes, here's some things you could do.
Yeah.
It's actually a really great new tool on our site, which our site's gotten recently updated. So some of you might see yourselves on there if you've been in things with us. But so we want to stop the process in which people get nominated and move through the funnel of leadership is such that we need to stop Stephen Archambault from moving out of what's called the Judicial Nominating Commission to the governor's desk. And it's going to get there because it's been cooked in as deals, is what they all say here in Rhode Island. So we really want to put pressure on Mike McKee, who wants to be governor again. And he really fucked it up with Mike McCaffrey. And for a lot of reasons, people have great reasons why, but it looks super bad for him as a nominee. And we are getting a ton of press and coverage on this, that more and more people are understanding how bad this looks for him. And this is actually going to really affect him at the polls, even after having made so many poor decisions. And so yeah, I would love to see people join us in these important actions. And if you want to come and see your state senators make the vote for this guy, Mike McCaffrey, they're going to have a floor vote this coming Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's going to be rough, by the way. There's been so many deals made, so many threats made to different senators that if they don't vote for him, then they aren't going to get any bills to come to the vote to come to the floor. And if they don't get any bills to come to the floor, they're going to have people challenge them, and their constituents aren't going to see that they ever passed any bills. Like really shady, dark feelings,
Yeah.
and people feel dangerous. It feels dangerous.
What did Arch? What was the thing you said? The Archambault broke some rules and he let in some. What was it? I was trying to
So
follow
Stephen
it.
Archambault sat on the Senate Judiciary, and
Yeah.
that was the committee that had to let the Reproductive Privacy Act out of committee to get to the Senate for a floor vote in 2019.
Yep.
And on the last day of the vote, there had been like this momentum growth, and we saw it happening. We felt that the bill was going to pass out of committee. Archambault really didn't want to do it. By the way, the bill sponsor of that bill in the Senate was Aaron Lynch Prada. And Aaron Lynch Prada is now a judge. And so I want to point to thinking about the question, I don't have proof, but questions of deals being made. She is now Judge Stephen Archambault. Let that bill through. He wants to become a judge. Mike
Right.
McCaffrey was the majority whip of the Senate. He let the bill through. Now he's getting to be a judge. Like, this is like literally this bill has been the deal that's really helped so many people get into this new opportunity of power. And they can overthrow this bill, by the way, as judges,
Yeah.
if it came to their table, right? They came to their bench. So the deal is that Stephen Archambault had the day of the hearing, everybody knew that it was going to pass out of committee that day because of a change that had been made. And he comes out and he reads a new bill that he had submitted into documentation. And he's like, I'm submitting this as a new bill of the Reproductive Privacy Act sub A. And everyone was like, you can't do that. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't the time. And so he stood up and he read his bill, which means he got it into the written testimony in the terms of like the minutes.
Jeez.
And that was him speaking his piece, and that was how he felt like he could do it. And it moved on, but he got to say what he needed to say. And he was a candidate who, on the stump, was telling all his constituents that he would, if Roe came to the floor for a vote in Rhode Island, he would support it. And we did a big campaign of advertisements that went into his nook of the state, asking for his constituents to call him and tell him to do the right thing, because he had made that promise when
Yeah.
he was at Doors. But anyway, so this is the guy that wants to be a superior court judge in Rhode Island, and he's up for 2 jobs because there's 11 people applying for 2 jobs, and he somehow has gotten his name into both buckets for those 2 positions.
Awful.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
All right.
So any help that anyone wants to join and give us, happy to get you details.
What open meetings violations were you referring to?
In the school committees, you have different rules that are required of how they allow people to make comments.
Yeah.
So one would be as simple as like they have to have their agendas up 48 hours before a meeting. Some
Yeah.
school committees didn't do that. Some school committees, when they were feeling the pressure of people coming and giving testimony, changed the rules last minute so that if you wanted to give testimony, you had to have signed up. Like I think it was in Bristol, you had to sign up like 4 days in advance, which is absurd
Ridiculous.
because you only knew that the meeting was happening 48 hours in advance. So people weren't able to speak in their own town committees and things like that. So OMA, Open Meetings Act violations, were being submitted constantly. And now you have at the Judicial Nominating Commission a rule that was made in 2022 that the commission doesn't allow anyone to speak as a witness if they want to speak for any of their meetings unless you sign up 14 days in advance.
That's ridiculous.
And so we submitted a letter. We asked the ACLU to join us in writing something to them in terms of how absurd it is from basically the suppression of voice of the community. And they came back and they said, well, this has been on the books since 2022.
Doesn't
It's a
matter.
rule that we have, and we're all volunteer, and therefore it should be fine. And
Nope.
so we as an organization are like, that just
That's not how that works.
It's just not about, not about anyone other than themselves.
Exactly.
And So, yeah. So it's just a lot. I mean, all these things sort of have this, if I was designing a Venn diagram, it all starts with the Reproductive Health Care Act or the Reproductive Privacy Act. And oddly for me, it all ends with the same place, right? You have all these strange things that are being done that are in the weeds and are designed to scare people or just suppress people's voice. And it's all because people are trying to see how much they can twist and turn the plans and the rules to get back to the state of where they were.
Yeah.
So,
So this might be a valid rule or not. I'm not 100% sure. Back when Dave Chiradio was campaigning, going around to every school committee to yell at them about trans people, uh,
oops.
he
Yeah.
he he went to
Go ahead.
Bristol. He went to Bristol and did his piece, and then I went up and I criticized him, and then I criticized the anti-trans lady on the school committee, Jessica Almeida, and they
Yep.
stopped me and they were like, "Oh, you can't criticize a school committee member by name during your comments." I'm
Oh.
like, Really?" And like, it didn't sound right. I was like, "Okay, if you say so," and then I just continued saying my piece. Other than that, but is that a real thing that you can't criticize them personally? This doesn't sound right to me.
I don't know, but there's a good tool called the Open Meetings Act
Yeah,
of Rhode Island. We could look at it because that has to be the rule base. That's the rule like set tone. It sets the tone,
yeah,
right? So, but you did the right thing by saying, "Oh, okay, I can't say her name." Well, I said it already, so you know exactly who I'm talking about.
exactly.
And you could do that every time,
Yeah,
right? You could say the person's name and then they say, "Oh, you can't do it." It's like, "Oh, okay." Well, there is a school committee member which I just mentioned 2 minutes ago, like
exactly.
so yeah. It's rough. This is rough, but I mean, I appreciate that you're getting this information out because it's so essential that as many of us feel like comfortable enough to do it, to get out there and say something
Yeah,
and to write an email or to put a call in because they're paying attention. And it's important that we show the community that's active.
yeah. All right. Well, sorry to take up so much more of your time, but
No,
uh,
it's fun.
yeah. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Hey, thank you, you too. And thanks for having us on.
No problem. Adios and have a good Sunday.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good stuff. Where am I going? Cam only. I'm a cam boy now. Now, once again, thank you to our sponsor, Bloom Patisserie. They specialize in meticulously crafted croissants and European pastries and delicious coffee and espresso. Every detail, design of our care, quality, and a slower, thoughtful cafe experience. Opening soon in Conamicut Village. Did he mean Connecticut? Anyway, follow them on Instagram at Patisserie Blow. I put the Patisserie Bloom. I put the Instagram handle in the chat of all these different platforms. All right, I don't have any bonus memes today, so fare thee well. Go to the Women Project website. Look at those two bad judges that we don't want people to go to approve. Mike McCaffrey and Stephen Archambault. I think McCaffrey's already further along in the process. But Stephen Archambault, get that guy out of there. He sounds like a dick. All right. Peace. There's a place in France where the window wear pen.
Later on. I found some wine, an apple, and some grilled mackerel. Hey, Zilly, thank you